Hey everyone, and welcome back to that 90s pod. Today, we're going on a deep dive into a show that made science an absolute blast.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The Magic School Bus.
Yes.
Remember those epic field trips with Miss Frizzle? Shrinking down to the size of a cell, exploring the human body,
Oh, yeah.
even blasting off into the solar system? If you love the Magic School Bus as much as we do,
Absolutely.
make sure you hit that subscribe button and share this episode with your fellow 90s fanatics.
Yeah, spread that 90s love.
So,
What's really cool is that the Magic School Bus didn't just entertain.
right.
It actually reflected a major shift in education during the 90s.
Okay.
It premiered in 1994,
Yeah.
right when there was a huge push for hands-on inquiry-based science learning.
Okay, so it wasn't just a coincidence that Miss Frizzle was taking kids on these wild adventures. There was a real educational philosophy behind it.
Absolutely. The show tapped into constructivism,
Mm.
a learning theory that emphasizes active learning and making connections to prior knowledge.
Oh.
Think about it. Ms. Frizzle never just lectured. Right.
She threw the kids head first into these experiences, letting them learn by doing, even if it meant getting messy.
That makes so much sense. It wasn't just about memorizing facts. It was about experiencing science firsthand.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, who wouldn't want to learn about the digestive system by actually shrinking down and taking a ride through Arnold's intestines?
Exactly.
Mm.
It took something as complex as digestion
Uh-huh.
and made it not only understandable, but incredibly memorable.
Right.
Remember how the episode showed the different stages of digestion?
Yeah.
Breaking down food into smaller and smaller pieces? That visual representation was key for helping kids grasp the concept of how our bodies process nutrients.
Oh, yeah, I totally remember that.
Yeah.
Speaking of memorable, how could we forget Mrs. Frizzle herself?
Right.
She was like a rock star scientist with her crazy outfits and that take chances, make mistakes, and get messy attitude.
Right. She embodied this idea that science is about exploration and experimentation, not just rote memorization.
She was a total role model for a new generation of educators who wanted to make learning exciting and engaging.
Yeah, it's funny because on the surface, she seems so over the top, but her teaching methods were actually grounded in some pretty solid educational theories.
Yeah.
I'm curious, though, did anyone ever criticize the show for being too fantastical? I mean, shrinking a bus down to the size of a cell, that's not exactly realistic.
There were definitely some criticisms,
Okay.
particularly around the idea that it presented an unrealistic view of what science is actually like.
Mm.
Some argued that it focused too much on entertainment and not enough on rigorous scientific methodology.
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much we love Miss Frizzle, we probably shouldn't expect our science teachers to suddenly start driving talking buses into volcanoes in real life.
Exactly. But I think the show's creators were aware of that balance.
Okay.
They consulted with scientists and educators to ensure the science was accurate, even if the presentation was a bit embellished.
So they took some creative liberties, but the core scientific concepts were still there.
Right.
That's pretty clever, actually.
Yeah.
It's like sneaking vegetables into a delicious smoothie. You get all the good stuff without even realizing it.
That's a great analogy. And it speaks to the show's brilliance.
Yeah.
It managed to make science not just palatable, but downright addictive for a whole generation of kids.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I think so, too.
for sure. And it wasn't just the science itself. The Magic School Bus also tackled some pretty important social and environmental themes.
Right.
Remember the episode about recycling where they literally went inside a landfill?
Oh, yeah. I remember being totally grossed out, but also fascinated by the idea of trash decomposing and turning into something new. It definitely made me think twice about what I was throwing away.
Right. It took a concept that could have been preachy or boring and made it into this wild adventure showing kids the real-life impact of their choices. And then there was that episode about the rainforest where they shrunk down to the size of insects and explored the ecosystem from a totally different perspective.
That one was amazing. It showed how interconnected everything is in nature, how even the smallest creatures play a vital role. I remember learning about the concept of symbiosis, how different species rely on each other for survival. It blew my mind.
It's incredible how they managed to pack so much information into each episode without ever feeling overwhelming or didactic. And let's not forget the diversity of the characters themselves.
Oh,
They came from different backgrounds, had different interests, and represented a much more inclusive vision of what a classroom could look like.
That's so true. It normalized diversity in a way that many other shows at the time didn't. and it showed that anyone could be interested in science regardless of their background or gender. That's funny. I was so caught up in the adventures and the science that I didn't even fully realize the social impact the show was having at the time. It just felt natural and fun.
That's the beauty of it. It seamlessly blended entertainment with education and social awareness, creating this incredibly powerful and lasting impact. Speaking of impact, did you know the Magic School Bus even had its own interactive website?
No way. Seriously. What was that like?
This was the early days of the internet, so it was pretty groundbreaking for a kids' show to have an online presence. Kids could go online and try virtual science experiments, play games related to the episodes, and even explore 3D models of the human body and other scientific concepts. It was like an extension of the show itself, taking that hands-on learning approach to a whole new level.
Wow, they were really ahead of the curve. It's like they anticipated the rise of online learning and educational technology before it even became mainstream. Makes you wonder if Miss Frizzle were teaching today, what kind of tech would she be using in her classroom?
Oh man, that's a great question. I bet she'd have virtual reality field trips, augmented reality labs, and maybe even a holographic Miss Frizzle leading the way.
That would be so cool. But I think even with all the fancy tech, the core of her teaching philosophy would remain the same, inspiring a love of learning through exploration, experimentation, and a healthy dose of getting messy.
Absolutely, and that's a message that will never go out of style.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, before we get too lost in futuristic Miss Frizzle fantasies, we have to give a shout out to all our amazing listeners.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying this blast from the past, don't forget to subscribe to that 90s pod and share the nostalgia with all your friends.
Yes, spread the 90s love. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming. The Magic School Bus wasn't just a flash in the pan. It had a lasting impact on educational programming. What do you think its legacy is?
Yeah, it really is wild to think about how a show as wacky and as fun as the Magic School Bus could have such a profound impact. But it definitely did.
Oh, absolutely. I think its legacy is multifaceted.
Yeah.
First, it made science cool for a whole generation.
Mm-hmm.
It showed that learning about science didn't have to be dry or intimidating.
Right.
It could be an adventure.
Right. And it wasn't just about the facts. It encouraged kids to think critically, ask questions,
Yeah.
and make connections between what they were learning and the world around them. Exactly. The show emphasized the process of scientific inquiry, showing that it's okay to make mistakes.
Yes,
Experiment and revise your thinking along the way.
totally.
That's such a valuable lesson for anyone, not just kids interested in science.
It totally is.
Yeah.
And I think it also paved the way for a wave of educational programming that followed in its footsteps. Shows like Bill Nye the Science Guy and Beekman's World.
Oh, yeah, totally.
They all took this idea of making learning fun and engaging and ran with it.
That's a great point. The Magic School Bus helped shift the paradigm for educational television,
Yeah,
proving that it was possible to create content that was both entertaining and enriching.
for sure.
And let's not forget the impact it had on educators themselves.
Oh, yeah. Miss Frizzle became a sort of icon for teachers who wanted to bring more creativity and excitement into their classrooms.
Right. She showed that teaching could be about embracing the unexpected, taking risks,
Totally.
and making learning a truly immersive experience. I mean, how many teachers can say they've taken their students on a field trip inside a human body?
Not many. But I bet a lot of them wish they could. And that's the magic of the Magic School Bus.
Yeah.
It captured our imaginations and made us believe that anything was possible, even shrinking down to the size of a blood cell or traveling through time.
It instilled a sense of wonder and curiosity, reminding us that the world is full of mysteries waiting to be explored.
Uh-huh.
And who better to guide us on that journey than the one and only Miss Frizzle, with her infectious enthusiasm and her never-ending supply of wacky field trips.
No one. She's the ultimate science teacher, even if she is a bit fictional. But hey, speaking of real life, wouldn't it be amazing if Mrs. Frizzle were to take her class on a field trip today? Where do you think she'd go? And what scientific concept would she tackle?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There are so many possibilities.
I know, right?
Maybe she'd take them to explore the depths of the ocean, uncovering the secrets of bioluminescent creatures and hydrothermal vents.
Okay.
Or perhaps she'd venture into the world of nanotechnology, shrinking the bus down to the size of an atom to investigate the building blocks of matter.
Those are fantastic ideas.
Yeah.
I could just picture Mr. Frizzle now decked out in a deep-sea diving suit or a nanosuit,
Right.
leading her students on a mind-blowing adventure. It makes me wish I could hop on that magic bus myself and join the fun.
Me too. But even though we can't physically travel with Miss Frizzle, we can keep that spirit of exploration and discovery alive in our own lives.
Oh, for sure.
Who knows what incredible things we might learn if we just stay curious and never stop asking questions.
Well said. And that, my friends, is the enduring legacy of the Magic School Bus. It's a reminder that learning is an adventure,
Yes.
and that with a little imagination and a whole lot of curiosity, we can unlock the wonders of the world around us.
So go out there, embrace your inner Mrs. Frizzle, and never stop exploring.
And if you're feeling nostalgia for more 90s with this, be sure to subscribe to that 90s pod and share this episode with your friends. Until next time, stay curious.